Welcome to Mountaineer Football Tonight, the weekly coaches show for Kings Mountain High School, brought to you by KMHS Sports and the Kings Mountain Touchdown Club.
Welcome to Mountaineer Football Tonight. Craig Short, your host here. Drew Fulton behind the computer over there, and Coach Herron. Coach, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're going to get going here pretty soon. Got a couple extra things this week. Got a highlight video we're going to show. We're glad that you are here, and we hope to give you some good info. Going to have some info and updates on the game this week, game time change, some of the things about the facilities there, and let Coach tell us all about the big win against Shelby last week. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll take a quick sponsor break, and we'll get right into the show. Hold tight.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home, Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back. Well, Coach, saw some great highlights there and had a good, successful game. Kind of hard starting out with the Battle of Buffalo Creek right off the gate, but you look pretty good, and it seemed like the boys played hard, and that's what we're going to get right into. So let's just talk about the Shelby game. Tell us some things you saw and like some of the takeaways you have after the game.
Well, you know that when you're playing in a rival game, both teams are going to play hard, and that was what I was impressed with. I knew our guys were going to come out and play hard. My biggest concern was with the lights being on and the big crowd and players losing their minds, kind of what happens sometimes. But our guys really, they stayed with it. They let us coach them, and they paid attention. They did what we asked them to do. So what we noticed is that now we made mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. Coach Carroll, defensively, he does a breakdown on the weekends of the good, bad, and ugly, and we had 13 ugly plays, and if we have more than one or two ugly defensive plays, it's a bad week. So 13's way too many. But we're still trying to get them all on the same page. So that's going to happen, but that's one of the things that we got to strive to get better at. And then, offensively, Coach Bolton's done a great job. The offense moved the ball when they needed to. Zolo, that was obviously a question mark that everybody has, and nothing against Zolo, but he stepped up and did what we thought and knew he could do. He played a very good game, commanded the offense very well, and made plays when he needed to, and limited mistakes. Now, we got the thing that I was most upset about is we were about to finish that game without any turnovers, which is huge to me. We harp on our guys all the time about when we're carrying the football, it's high and tight. We're not going to give the ball away. We're not going to have turnovers. And then our center ball slips out of his hand. He hits himself in the leg with it. And it was, it's not nobody's fault except for his. And we just got to make sure that we take care of that football at all times. But Barry, he owned up to it, and he made sure it didn't happen again. So just all those little things. Those are the little things. Everybody sees the big stuff. Everybody notices the big stuff. It's the little things that we want to take care of.
I agree with you. We talked off air, Coach, about the effort and about how hard they played, and I agree with you. You were saying, and I'll let you talk about it, but I really thought they played hard throughout the whole game. I mean, it's easy to get up for a rivalry game, but sometimes, as you said, you don't know how they're going to perform. But right. I felt like from a standpoint of a fan watching, the effort I thought was really good. Yeah,
and that's the first thing we want is a relentless effort, trying to get after the ball or trying to get first downs. We want to block to the whistle and all those things that you hear people say all the time. But we truly want that to happen. And like we were saying earlier, it was a rival game. They wanted to win and they wanted to play hard, and so did Shelby. So I was really pleased with the effort, but we got to be able to bring that effort every week, no matter who we play. Right.
Well, you're using some guys that are new to the team, that are new to the program. I mean, obviously the coaches are new to the program. You've been working with them for a while, of course. Some didn't come in until the summer, so I felt like it was good to have some early success in the game to establish some confidence.
Right.
Because I think the quicker you can do that, then of course you can execute a little better.
Yeah.
Again, from my standpoint, I thought your quarterback Zolo played well. I thought the pocket was there a lot for him.
Yep.
He had a chance to throw, so the offensive line played well.
They did real well.
The good running lanes, we ran crisp routes. I thought on defense, like you said, you had some ugly plays, but I do believe that the flow was good in the game, and they kind of set the tone.
Yep.
Up front, I was impressed with seeing the movement of not only our offensive line but our defensive line. Seeing that, being an old defensive coach, Do you guys favor a lot of movement up front? Do you play a more gap control, or do you try to move around a bunch?
Well, we're a gap control defense. That's what we want. But we with our athletes, and that's what we're still in that teaching phase of this part of it. With our athletes, we want them to be able to run. We want them, and so what we call it reading on the run. When we want to come off the ball hot and fast every single time the ball is snapped. And we have a gap that we were responsible for, but once we get to that gap and we know where the ball is going, whether it's run, pass, then we make our decisions on where we need to go next. But we've got some things that we still got to teach them. We got to get passing, understanding what passing lanes are, understanding that eventually when they can come out of their gap. We come out of our gaps sometimes too soon. You'll see a lot of times that we had defensive ends, they would stick their head in B gap and they're an outside guy. So we just give up contain and say the heck with it. We're not going to do that. Right. We did it this week. We're going to correct that mistake, and so it's just little things like that. Yeah. Again, it goes back to the little things. Mm-hmm. It's those little things. Everybody sees the big stuff. We got to take care of the little things.
Well, Coach, we talked about it being there. Your first time on the field. The first game. You're the new coach. We started a new era with the Mountaineers, of course. You've implemented several things that I think are great changes. Coming from a fan, a former coach here. I've obviously got a son on my team, and just talking to him and hearing his excitement. But as all of those things combined, I was really excited, not just because it was the first game, but to see some of the things. We've got a video playing now of the atmosphere Friday night. And one of the things I like was what you've implemented with the hill. I know you talked about running down the hill. We mentioned that last week. But what a lot of places would call a ball walk. Right. I thought this was a really neat idea, and how you led the team in. My question is, how hard was it to get by that crowd at the concession stand?
Well, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be at first. Yeah. But I imagine that as this tradition continues, it'll get harder and harder every week. Yeah. But I think this is a neat thing. I think it's great for the kids and Kings Mountain. They see these guys, and we want to be the role models that we want them to become. So it's great for them to be able to see them as they walk across, and we're calling it the Mountie Walk. I love it. That's what it is. It's the Mountie Walk. So that's what it's listed on as the itinerary. And we come right down the hallway of the field house, which is beautiful because we go right past that incredible trophy case, and then we walk right past it. We come out the other side door and head straight up to the top of the hill. So it's a neat thing, and I hope that the players enjoy it.
Well, I like how you were out front. Now I'm not going to ask what you turned around and said to the team, because that'll be between you and them. But right. I know you had them ready to play before they even came out.
And honestly, that's usually not my style. Yeah. I'm usually not going to be the guy up there in front. But the first time, I wanted to make sure everything was right. And then once we got to the hill, I just said something that may have taken like 5 seconds. Yeah. And once I said it, I moved out of the way. I let them run down the hill. I took it easy down the side. So
I would have too.
Yeah, I don't want to be the first guy out. That's for sure.
I like the fact that you were there with them, though. I mean, the vision of just seeing you, and I mean, that's your team. Those are your guys, and you turning around and talking to them. I know they were ready to play.
Oh, they were ready.
But they were ready to shine, and you had them going, and I appreciate you being there. And I love the tradition. I love what we've started. That's going to be a good thing. I like the fact we got down the hill and no one got hurt.
Yes.
That's the big thing. Yes. Speaking of that, though, Coach, you got us into that game, the Battle of Buffalo Creek, they call it. Your first time in it. We talked about how well they played. Before we go to the sponsor break, let's ask, what are 3 big takeaways you had from the game coming out of that one?
I guess takeaway number 1 is we got to do a better job in special teams. Of course, I think Max did a great job kicking, and he was one of our players of the week, and that part was good, but we got to be able to kick the ball off, and we need to be able to kick it deep, and we need to be able to cover it. And after the first one, they had a really good returner. Number 6 was a player. We knew that, but I thought we could go down and cover him. And after that first return, we just said, well, I play the odds. If you keep it away from him, make somebody else do it. And our kicking team did a great job with that. We started sky kicking it to away from 6, and that helps us. But those are the kind of things we've got to get better at. Now, the punt was that was a great thing, but the punting game was good. Max, he had over a 40-yard average, which is awesome. And so all of that, so that would be takeaway number 1. We've got to get a little bit better on the special teams as far as covering kicks and returning. We had a great return, but there's some things we got to get fixed there. The other part of it, I guess, number 2 big takeaway was Zolo really stepping up and doing the job that he did. I was impressed with that, and the receivers did a good job. And and they'll tell you, I'm not talking bad about them. I love them to death, and they know it. But we left 2 out there.
Yeah,
we dropped 2 touchdown passes, and so that would be a takeaway. That's something. And this is the way I am now. This is the way I always am. Everybody likes to look at the good things and all that stuff. I look at what's wrong. We've got stuff that we have to fix. So that's something else that we've got to get better at, and that's just practice. And but that's a big takeaway. Zolo did a great job, and the receivers did a great job, but that we could have been even better. And then the last takeaway is of course our defense, of what they were able to do. I knew up front, just coming in. I mean, when I was offered a job and started looking at videos, like, man, what we can do up front is incredible. But I didn't quite understand the quickness that the front has, and that's going to give teams problems.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You said something that resonated with me. I like what you said, that you want to point out the positive, you see the positive, but you want to also see some things that need to be fixed. I agree with you. I mean, I think if you focus strictly on everything you did right, it develops complacency.
That's right.
And you don't want to be complacent,
no.
Because people are coming for you. So you've got to make sure you're lined up and ready.
Yeah.
Before we go to the break, I do want to ask you. Now, I'm going to take credit for this because I was in the press box. Of course, I said it after you did it. But I, it's easy to say it after you did it. But had you already thought you were going to run a fake punt if you got into that position, or was that just done? Did you decide right that moment?
Well, we talked about it. Robert Kendrick is our up back on our punt team, and he's a very smart, very intelligent football player, and so we had talked about it. We have like meetings when we go in the field house after we have our pregame meal. We have meetings, so we have a punt team meeting, and then a kickoff team, the kickoff return, and our offense and our defense, and we have walkthroughs. There's all kinds of stuff going on in that field house people don't know about. But in the punt team meeting, I talked to Rob and said, "Hey man, listen, if it's there tonight, we're going to run it." Sometimes I try to hold stuff as long as I can, because once you show it, now everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So, but I told him, I said, "Man, if it's there tonight, we're going to take it." And so, right before he went out on the field, even though it was 4th and 18, I looked at Rob and I said, "Rob, if it's there, you go ahead and call it.
Yeah.
This will be a time you can call it. If it's not there, just punt it. We'll be fine." And when he walked down on the field, and I'm not going to go into what they had, tell the secrets, but it was there.
Yeah.
And so he called it, and in that situation, it was 4th and 18. We were on their end of the field, and said, "Hey man, even if Rob gains 10. They still got the ball. We got them down there and around the 30-yard line, which is not much different than a punt if they return it. So we were okay. It was a good place to take a chance. But Rob made the right call.
Yeah,
obviously.
I thought about it. I'm glad he got a first down.
Right.
I mean, I didn't. I mean, everybody. But then he just keeps going and keeps going. He ends up in the end zone. I was telling Gabe, or I wanted to tell Gabe that. It's kind of like, when it turns cold and you put that jacket on, you're glad that it's warm, and then you stick your hand in your pocket, you find a $5 bill.
Yes, sir.
So you get extra, and you're like, this
That's
is
right.
pretty good. But
That's right.
That was a great play, and going back and watching it on some highlights, I thought the punt team did a good job.
Yeah.
Once Robert took off, it looked like they did a pretty good job getting
However, we had two mistakes.
There you go.
They had 2 mistakes on that punt return, on that fake punt, that we got to get fixed.
That's right.
So
That's what we'll work on.
We're working on it this week.
There you go. There you
I'm not
go.
going to tell you what those.
No. We don't want to know. We don't want to know. All right, so that's the synopsis of the Shelby game. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a sponsor break really quick. And when we come back, we're going to look at our matchup this week with Cox Mill. So you guys hang on and we'll be right back.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
Inside. Welcome back. I'm glad you're with us tonight. We're here with Coach Strait Herron, head coach of the Mountaineers. I've just finished talking about, got a couple good highlight videos, and then we talked about the Shelby game. Now we're going to get into our matchup this week. Coach, let's talk about Cox Mill. They've played one game just like you guys have. I know obviously you've seen that game film and maybe seen a couple of scrimmages. Give us some feedback on what you're seeing or think you'll see this week.
Well, from a defensive side of it, their quarterback, they have two different quarterbacks, and both of them can make plays, and so that's going to be the primary thing that we have to do is we got to make sure we keep those two guys contained, and then after that their offensive line is big. Mm-hmm. I don't think they quite move as well as what they're going to see from our defensive guys, but they still worry you because you got to get around them.
Yeah.
But their offense, they're a spread offense, and they try a lot of things. They try to get on the perimeter a lot. They don't really try to get it, just mash it and run it up the middle. But they do get in 12 personnel, which is, they tight end with an H-back, and it gets they can try to do that. So offensively, we've got to do a good job of staying in our gaps and playing, fighting pressure and being where we're supposed to be. And then, of course, their passing game was not, watching on film was not the greatest, but, they've got a new coach too. And so as time goes on, they're going to get better at it. And that kind of scares you because if you walk in the game, that's what they worked on this week and they got really good at it. And then you've watched it on film and you probably maybe didn't get prepared as you should have.
Right.
And then defensively, they do a good job of running around. They get after it pretty good, and we're going to have to play smart football. They give you certain things in the passing game, but you got to be able to see them. You as a quarterback, and of course Coach Bolton, he just done a great job. I was sitting in his office today, and he was going through some things with me, and we've got a good idea of what they did last week, and if they do the same thing they did last week, of course we've got a plan for it. But you just never know,
right?
And so it's going to be interesting. And then my big thing is, are they going to continue to climb, or did they give everything they had last week, and then this week's just going to be one of those off weeks? So that's my job to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
So we'll see what happens when we get over there. But Cox Mill, they've got some players. They had a really good team last year, and they've got some good players that we're going to have to play well.
Well, we're speaking of going down there, Coach. Some things have changed. Obviously, it's been hot this week. You've had to adjust the practice schedule a few times. You've gone out later, obviously to avoid the heat. Friday night, they've moved the kickoff back, which I'm glad they have. And we're going to go over, Drew, if you've got the graphic, we'll put it up. We've got some things about that game before we talk more about it. Just remember that when we go in, or you come to the game, and we want you all to come to the game, you'll enter from the visitor's side. It's closest to the tennis courts, if I remember correctly reading. You've got to purchase your ticket online because they're not going to take cash there at the ticket gate. Cabarrus County Schools has a no-bag policy. No bags are allowed in the stadium, even the clear bags. The concession stand will take cash. They'll take credit, cash, or Apple Pay. And the big change was it's going from a 7 o'clock kickoff now to an 8 o'clock kickoff. And I'm old enough to know that when I played, we played at 8 o'clock, so that's no big deal to me. And Coach, I know you probably played back then too, but does that change at all how you guys are preparing for the week?
It really doesn't. It doesn't change how we prepare. It just it changes the itinerary for game day.
Right.
You know, and I had the itinerary set. We were ready to go, and our itinerary is down to the minute of where players are supposed to be and so forth. And so we got to once it came out that it would be 8 o'clock, we moved a lot of things back and when pregame meal was going to be. Plus, we asked the question where we're going to dress and that kind of thing. We found out that they don't have a visitor's dressing room, so we don't want to get over there too early and sit out in the heat all day,
Right.
for 2 or 3 hours before we play. So we're just trying to make sure that we get there at the appropriate time to get done what we need to get done.
Yeah, I agree. And the unknown, because it's a new team, you've not played them, and I mean even with us and
Right.
the old hats, so to speak, of Kings Mountain, we don't know anything about them either.
Yep.
So you're right, you're kind of going into the unknown. And as you kind of alluded to, that can be dangerous sometimes because they could throw some wrinkles in you don't know about, but also how will your guys respond?
Right.
Do they put so much energy into a really big game like the game against Shelby? Can they get up again? I feel pretty confident they'll be ready to play.
I think they will. I think we will. We had our leadership lesson today, and the team. We do it by units, but they've created a what we call a clarity of purpose statement or mission statement. So and they do it themselves. It's not something that the coach does. And the things that they said and the things that they talked about today, I think they're going to hold each other accountable to go out and perform well.
Yeah.
So that's the plan anyway.
So, Coach, I know that before we take another break, there's something I want to ask you about that. When I heard that you were doing that on Wednesdays, I think it's a great idea. And I'm sure you've probably been doing that the whole time you've been a coach or pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of old coaches would say, what in the world is he thinking? I mean, he's got a JV game Thursday. He's playing on Friday. That's probably the last real day most coaches would have for practice. They don't do a real quote unquote real practice on Thursdays. What led you to doing that? Like to choose to do a leadership day on Wednesday?
Yeah, well, it goes back to I was blessed when I was at South Point. I was invited by Nike to go out to what they call the high school football coaches. Elite high school football coaches symposium that Nike put on, and they flew me out to Portland, and we went to these clinics and things, and there was a team there, a 7A team from Northern California, and they were telling their story about how they had gotten close to winning a state championship but never could do it. And the coach was a lot like me. He was a hard-nosed coach, had really tough practices, really trying to prepare their guys the best they could. And he said that when they got to the playoffs, they always had an injury, and they always seemed like their players were kind of running out of gas. They were getting tired. So he started calling around, and there's a system out there called the catapult system, which we're going to look into later. And he started calling around the colleges, and he found out that all of these colleges and places where they really push the kids hard, they say that you need to go hard 2 days and then you need to take a recovery day and then go hard again for 2 more days, and then so it's 2 on 1 off. And so the guy that was telling us this thing, he said we did the same thing you're talking about. The guy said, so we don't practice on Wednesday. On Wednesday we do something else. And all the coaches that were sitting out in this auditorium, we started turning and looking at each other. Our eyes are getting big. We're like, man, that dude's crazy. There ain't no way I'm giving my guys off Wednesday. But he goes on to tell us that, hey, they that year that they did that, they finally won the state championship. And they said that when they got there, their players seemed just like nothing had changed. It was just like they were the whole year.
Right.
So I decided to try it when I was at South Point. We did it, and when we got to the end of the year, I brought the seniors in, and I said, man, now I want y'all to give me the truth. Now, you tell me truthfully, and you can tell me anything because y'all aren't going to be here next year.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Wednesdays off? And I heard the exact same thing from them that the guy and the coach in California said. They said, Coach, when we got to the playoffs, we felt just like we did when we started the season. We had the same energy. We didn't have any any major injuries.
Yeah.
Nobody was, and so it's just something that I learned about, and I talked to some college trainers about it, and they all agreed with the same thing. So we're going to push our guys hard Monday and Tuesday. We're going to take Wednesday off and do something that I think is might be the catalyst for making the team the best it can be.
It could be
through the leadership lessons.
And that's what I was going to say to end it. I mean, the fact that you're not only giving them a day off, but you're not just giving them the day off.
No, it's not a day off.
They're doing something productive that's going to improve them as a young
Yes.
man.
Yes.
And I think it helps you guys connect to them a little better as coaches because you're
Definitely.
involved with it too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But this is the only I use. I want a player-led team. That's what I want. I want the players to take control and in charge of the team. But in order to do it, they have to do it the right way. So if you're expecting them to do that, then you better teach them. You got to give them the tools to be leaders. And so we preach to them, hey man, who can be a leader? Anybody, everybody. Right. We want everybody on the team to be a leader. Now we have guys that we call unit leaders. They run the meetings, but we expect every single one of them to be engaged and involved in that. And honestly, it hadn't taken full effect yet.
Right.
I mean, we were only on the second week, but I've seen it do great things. And this comes from Urban Meyer when he won the first national championship at OSU. They used the same program, or we're using the same program that they used,
right.
and I can't wait to see what it.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be great. It could be okay. It could possibly even fail. But I don't see how that's possible if everybody buys into it,
Right.
and which it seems our kids are doing.
And you've proven that it's worked. I mean,
There is proven.
You said it.
You're exactly right.
You've seen it work.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, Coach, I appreciate that. What we're going to do is we're going to take another break, and we come back. We're going to do our Gutter Guys Players of the Week and do our Ask the Coach segment. So stick around.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back. Thanks for hanging in. Sorry that I'm coughing so much. Drew didn't provide me any water tonight, so I'm struggling over here. So, Coach, we're going to get into the Gutter Guys Players of the Week. Obviously, we recognize a player on each phase of the game: offensive player, defensive player, and special teams. So let's start with our offensive player of the week, our Gutter Guys offensive player of the week.
The offensive player of the week, we decided to go with Zolo, just because of what he was able to do, and I think he deserves some recognition for taking on a lot of pressure,
Right.
and coming through and doing really well. So he was about 500 on his stats for passes, but did a great job of just leading the offense. So we had good performances by a lot of people, but Zolo did a great job.
Excellent. So who will be your Gutter Guys defensive player of the week?
The defensive player of the week is Michael Ward. He ended up, he didn't lead the team in tackles. He had 8 where Jason Melton had 9, but he had a lot of other parts that played into doing well on defense. He had a tackle for loss, and a couple other things. So Micah did a really good job, and so he's going to be our defensive player.
Excellent. And then to round it out, we'll do the Gutter Guys special teams player of the week.
Special teams was Max. Max Thompson was, he was 2 for 2, kicked a 39-yard field goal, which was great. He was 4 for 4 on extra points, and he did a good job having a punting average of over 40. So all those guys, and Max did a great job.
Thank you. And we'll take a swig so I'll quit coughing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm just dry mouth.
Thank you. Thank you, Drew. We are not sponsored by Aquafina, so I'll turn that sideways.
Right.
So, Coach, we'll do the segment now that I know you love. We'll ask the coach segment. and then we'll have have a couple of questions for you. The first question I'd ask you, one of the things I've noticed while I've watched you practice, and I've been able to come and watch a few, I love the structure and how everything runs. I know you use the clock and all. One of the things that has struck me is that first of all, you're all over the place. I mean, you're involved. I've seen you do defensive line drills. I've seen you work with the linebackers. I've seen you be with the quarterbacks. As the head coach, have you always allowed other coordinators to coordinate and you just do like a specific thing, or have you ever been a head coach and a coordinator?
Once I became a head coach, I hired 2 coordinators. I wanted I just wanted to focus on what a head coach does. And man, the coordinating, if you do coordinating the way it's supposed to be done, it's so time consuming. I was a defensive coordinator for a long, long time, and I know what I used to do as a defense coordinator. I would not have time to do that and all the things I have to do as a head coach. And I actually had thought about doing that when Jason Winstead, he was my defense coordinator at South Point for the first 4 or 5 years. When he got a head coaching job and he left that very next year, I said, all right, man, I'm going back. I'm going to coach defense. I want to coach a position again. I want to coach. I'm going to be the defense coordinator and the head coach. That lasted about 6 weeks. Yeah. And I said, it's just too much. And so I hired somebody to come in and do that. So that, yes, I'm a head coach. And I was actually asked that in the interview process here. I was asked, would I coach one side of the ball or the other, and I told them if that's what they wanted, if they had a reason for me to coach one side of the ball, I could do it and would do it. But if I had my pick, I would just want to be the head coach. And they said, no, that's what we want. Yeah. So it actually worked out good, and this is the best fit for me. Just to be able to do what you're talking about. I can go to where I want to go, where I need to go during practice.
What I like about that too is there was actually several things. Number one, you're giving your coaches autonomy. You know, you still have a hand in it, but they have the ability to coach their players. Yes. But what's also wonderful about that is you know, those players never know when you're really going to be there.
That's right. And
they want to make sure, obviously they want their position coach to correct them and do good things with them and be proud of them, but they also want the head coach to know how hard they're working. Right. And I like the fact that just from a standpoint of a fan, but even a father, that you're watching each aspect of the game, and while you might, or practice, and while you might not be on offense right this moment, you might be back over there in a few minutes. That's right. And you're getting involved, and I think that says a lot to the young men, and it shows aside from football, I think it teaches a good work ethic. Yeah. That you get involved, and that they have to be as men, as leaders. They have to be involved in several different things all at one time.
Right. And I think, it's important to know that, I love the players. That's why I'm here. I love the players, and I love to see what they do and how they do it. And I'm going to get on them when they walk on the field. I'm going to get on them. Yeah. But I'm watching the coaches too. Right. I'm not and it's not so much critiquing them. I'm just watching how the interaction between them and the players and so forth and so on. There's a lot of things that are going on, and I think just being that extra guy, I think it's good for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of that, Coach, in loving the players and doing that, you got to talk about this a little bit at the post-game interview on Friday. So my final question tonight is, for those that didn't get to hear the interview after the game, let's talk about the game ball. Yeah. You got a game ball, and they made sure that you got it. And first of all, kind of tell us about what it meant to you, like what you thought, and I want you to say again what you said on air about what you were going to do with it, and then go from there.
Well, anytime that the team recognizes you in that kind of a way, it touches you, it humbles you, it reminds you really why you're there. So my first head coaching job, first game, was when I was at South Point, we played our crosstown rival Northwestern, and that was my alma mater. And so we won that game, and they gave me the game ball after. I still have the game ball, and it'll be one of my prized possessions. I'll never get rid of it.
Right.
Well, this ball is going to be kept the same way. And as a matter of fact, when I got home, I told my wife, I said, you know those ball cases
like
that I said we need to go buy 2 of them, because I want those balls put up and kept. So it is a tremendous honor just to be a part of a program like that, and when you know your kids, I bet you I've given more high fives and hand bumps since the beginning of since I've been at Kings Mountain than I have the whole time I've been coaching. These guys are just I hope they know that I've got their back, and I feel like they have mine, and so all of that kind of goes together, and just having that ball. I saw it on the video. As soon as he handed it to me, I patted that thing about 3 times, and it'll be very, very special. I'll have it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and you're right. I mean, just what went into it to get it, who it's from, what it stands for. Right. And then you'll remember it. I've got I don't have a game ball like that, but I actually have a ball in one of those cases. I've got a personally autographed ball from Coach Bobby Bowden.
Wow. Yep.
And I was lucky to hear him speak.
Yes,
I was lucky to hear him
man.
speak and got him to sign a ball, and he made it out to me personally. And that's on my shelf at my house in one of those. And I cherish that because of who it was. But that one, or those 2, the one from South Point and then this one from last Friday, I can see that definitely will always resonate.
Yep.
And that's a big deal. And it was a hard-earned game ball, but it was a good one to have.
Yes, it was. It was a great way to start.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you, the Kings Mountain fans are happy to win, but anytime they can beat Shelby and start the season off that way, that's a good way to start.
I was told that a couple of times.
Yeah, you probably heard that a few times, haven't you? Yeah. No pressure, right? That's what I thought. I bet you thought when you saw the schedule, you thought, man, I've got to open up the season with the biggest rival, but
that's
hey,
right.
It tested your mettle right out of the gate. So, Coach, before we say goodbye, do you have any final things you want to say to the fans or about this week's game?
No, I would like to say that I enjoyed the atmosphere. That's the reason why I'm here. I kind of, after leaving South Point, I keep talking about it. I say I'm going to stop saying it, but after leaving South Point, I kind of took another direction, and it just wasn't the same, and it felt really good to be on the sideline of a big-time game that really matters. And the fans were great. When I walked on the field, the student sections were hollering at me, and that's a good feeling. I don't even know those guys yet, so that's a good feeling. But everybody, and after the game, I was talking to my wife. My son was here, and of course he's nonverbal autistic, and my wife was talking about how nice everybody around her was, and so it was great. The whole atmosphere was great, and I hope everybody comes to Cox Mill. We need to have all the backing we can get, and look forward to doing it again.
Well, I was going to tell you that real quick, and I hope I don't jinx us by saying this, but we also travel very well.
Yes.
One of the things you'll see Friday night, and again, I don't think I'm going to be wrong, but our fans travel really well.
I hope so.
Mr. Washburn always brings a piece of the band, the pet band. I mean, it's a good atmosphere then, too. And, in fact, there have been lots of times when we've traveled, we've had more people and more support than the other team. So that's a good thing. But I like it because there's an excitement.
That's right.
And that's a neat thing that has been established here. And it's good to see the excitement in the players and the community, and
most importantly is you're supporting these kids.
Sure.
I mean, the kids, I think a lot of people lose the fact they don't really know what a football player goes through.
Right.
It's just a different sport, and what they do all summer long. I mean, it wouldn't, in today's world, it wouldn't shock me to walk out one day and have a really good player go, man, I'm not doing this anymore. It's too much. And these guys, they keep coming and keep coming and keep coming, and so I like to have the big crowds there to support those kids because they deserve it.
They do, and it's exciting, and they will be there.
Yes.
From the old timers to the new timers, they'll be there. So we're looking forward to it. That's Friday night down at Cox Mill in Concord at 8:00. The Mountaineers will be taking on Cox Mill there. I don't even know what their mascot is.
Chargers.
The Chargers. There you go.
Yes.
Taking on the Chargers. And we'll be there at 8 o'clock kickoff. We'll go over the stuff about the game again here in just a moment. Coach, I know you got a lot to do. Got to get home to your family. It's been a pleasure. This opening, I'm sorry I wasn't with you last week,
okay.
but glad to be with you this week and looking forward to a long season, and appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All righty.
So we'll take a quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back and close it out. Hang on.
Mountaineer football tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back. Glad you stayed with us. It's been a good show so far. I just want to go over a few things. First, we want to talk about what's going on at Kings Mountain High School this week, because we love to support all of the athletic programs and Kings Mountain High School in general. So right now, as we're recording the show, we've got men's soccer playing Shelby out there on the field, on the turf in John Gamble. Tomorrow, August 24th at 4:30, volleyball will be traveling to Weddington. JV football will be here tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. for their home kickoff against Cox Mill. Of course, Friday night, we're traveling down to Concord to Cox Mill. That kickoff is at 8 p.m. Men's soccer will play on Monday, the 28th, at 6 p.m. versus East Rutherford. And there are actually no sports scheduled right now on the 29th. That's not very common.
Unless you want to do something.
I know nobody wants to show up and play, so we'll be good there. We do want to go over one more time what's going to be what we'll face on Friday if we're fans are coming in. Remember, you're going to enter from the visitor side. As I recall from the graphic, the visitor side gate is at or near the tennis courts there at Cox Mill. Please purchase your ticket online. There is a link on the Facebook page, on the Mountaineer Athletics Facebook page. You can see the link there. Ticket Spicket. Thank you, Drew. Ticket Spicket is where you will buy that ticket. Cabarrus County, remember, has a no bag policy. You cannot take any bag into the stadium of any type, so please don't walk up with a bag. They're going to make you go back to your car. Concession stands will take cash, credit, and Apple Pay. And the biggest and most important part is kickoff is now at 8 p.m., not 7 p.m. That's what the schedule says, 7 p.m. So make sure you're there on time. Hopefully, with it being a little bit of a later kickoff, traffic won't be quite as bad when you go in. Of course, Drew's going to be there. Drew, Lamont, myself, the game will be broadcast on our YouTube channel. Please make sure you tune into that if you are not able to come to the game. Make sure you spread that link around to folks who are not here. Maybe they're out of state, they're traveling, maybe even out of the country. You spread it to them so they know that when the game will be on and we'll be broadcasting. And speaking of that, we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not already a member of or a subscriber to that YouTube channel, please subscribe. That's where we put all sorts of things from Kings Mountain Athletics to be posted there. We also would like for you to follow us on the Facebook page. And while I'm talking about following and being a member, please take the time to join the Kings Mountain Touchdown Club. Everything that our athletes and our band and other pieces of our school get to do oftentimes are supported by the Kings Mountain Touchdown Club, because of a lot of folks like you who are watching this show and others who I know are going to join very soon. The Kings Mountain Touchdown Club does a tremendous job in supporting all things Kings Mountain Mountaineer, and we hope you will join too. So we appreciate you being here tonight. It's been a great show, I think. I'm glad to be in the saddle for my first show. Looking forward to a long season, and we will be back next week with the Coach Herron Coaches Show on Kings Mountain Football Mountaineer Tonight. Have a blessed week. We'll see you Friday at Cox Mill.
Mountaineer football tonight is sponsored by HB Jones Appraisals, John Gamble and Carolina Golf, the Kings Mountain Family YMCA, Harris Funeral Home,